Would-
I'm gonna start the recording now. Because basically, okay, let's see, can I put my thing right here so I can make it look like I'm looking right at the camera? That's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, is looking at the camera, not the screen.
Right. You're like, oh, I want to look down at everything else that's happening. But no, you want to look
Really.
right at the screen. So, okay, so this is basically what we're starting is a school baseball podcast. All right. This is an idea that I've had for at least a year now. And I actually already have the domain saved for podcasts like on Spotify, the School of Baseball podcast, or I think it's called School of Baseball Pod, is what I think I have it, or just
Sweet.
School of Baseball. Because I was surprised it wasn't taken. Also, I was looking around, I'm like, there's got to be a podcast that's already being put out that's about more of the game of baseball and more so about like especially youth sports and about development and about challenges that coaches face, parents like yourself, and then players, as you get older and how you deal with all that stuff. So that has led me down my own journey, which you are a lot like me because we're both lefties,
Right?
right? And being a lefty playing baseball specifically is such a unique sport to be a lefty in because it's a lot rarer than being a righty. I'm sure you saw growing up as a lefty how little lefty coaches you had and how little lefty representation you had, which for me made my development, I think, a little bit more challenging. And I felt like I had to do it much more independently. I
Yeah.
don't know
I
how it made you
mean,
feel.
yeah, you just think differently being left-handed, and you kind of have to figure out a bunch of things on your own because most people are right-handed.
Yeah.
And the footwork, especially even as a physical therapist, and what I do now is challenging sometimes when I'm working with people of figuring out what that footwork is for them. Like if I'm facing them or they turn around and they're facing away, then you got to flip that thought in your head and work through that with them. So if you're not working with a lot of people of the opposite foot or the opposite direction, I mean, to me, that would just make sense. It's more challenging to do.
Right.
So,
Yeah. And so, cool question for you. I don't actually realize I never asked you this, Kevin, but how did you play baseball through high school?
no, I played to middle school,
Okay.
and my dad pleaded with me to stick with baseball because I was fast, I was athletic. I played catcher. I played third base occasionally. They put me at first because I was flexible and I could reach, and then I'd play outfield and pitch because I had some speed and some power. So, um, one of those lefties that could kind of get away playing almost anywhere on the field,
Yeah.
just because I was pretty athletic. But
Yeah. And when you were in middle school catching, right? You were saying you caught?
mhm,
Did your coaches want you to catch, or were they kind of resistant to you catching?
they were fine with it. I don't remember really a lot of kids wanting to catch. Um, so me being like, well, shoot, I'll be involved with every play. Great. Like,
Yeah.
put me back there. And I mean, I'm just back there holding my glove up essentially. I mean, what my, Hunter, you've seen him behind the dish now. Like he actually functions like a catcher back there, comes up, rips through balls and tries his best to do that or can
Right.
actually block, which being an 11-year-old um, is just crazy, what
Yeah.
they know about baseball at that age.
Right. So I guess like what I love about your perspective of um like sports training and then also with baseball is you played a lot of other sports that weren't baseball and you were still obviously left-handed. Did you encounter any like lefty biasism in track or like any difference in being a lefty doing a sport like that?
Track, no. I mean, you just were looking at speed. I mean,
Right.
with triple jump, you would either start right foot or left foot. So a lot of jumpers were left, left, right. So I guess that was kind of like different. Or like long jump though, there's a lot of jumpers that would jump right foot. Playing basketball, I think helped solidify my ability to take off kind of either foot, but
Mhm.
preferably it'd be my right. Just going up for a layup or anything like that, you're
Yeah.
going to push off your right foot and reach up with your left. So,
Yeah, I actually, as a kid growing up, you talk about basketball. I remember my dad always taught me to shoot right-handed when I was younger because he said if you can play basketball with both hands, you will A, dominate people, but also really confuse their team. And
Hmm.
so I remember one game after practicing right-handed like a crap ton to the point where I was shooting right-handed and I was doing layups. He told me, he gave me the advice. He said, play the first half all right-handed and then
I
come out the
love it.
second half and play it fully left-handed and they wouldn't know what to do. And I tried doing that. It was pretty funny and it worked a little bit. I just couldn't shoot right-handed, obviously. I was like I think 12 when I was doing this. But
Uh,
I feel like being a lefty in a sport like that really requires hand-eye coordination gives you an advantage because it's such an uncommon thing for people to see, right? I feel like
yeah.
now it's more common, right? I feel like there's more lefties than there have been, but I still think that they're like underrepresented.
I mean, we're still what, depending on what source you want to look at, there's about 10% of people that are left-handed. Now kids aren't getting their hands slapped by nuns with rulers for using their left hand. So it's more accepting to
Yeah,
use your left hand, but it's still a very much right-handed dominant world that we live in.
right.
And it's funny you mentioned that about your dad and playing basketball because my dad was kind of like similar. And so I could shoot right-handed for some things. I haven't played an actual half of basketball with just the right hand, but I could get to the point where I could go off the right elbow and shoot right-handed and sink it fairly consistently.
Nice.
But I mean, my dad would push just working both hands.
Yeah.
And even when he coached, like my brother's basketball teams, his teams would end up winning or taking second in their league every year, despite whoever he had on his team, because he would work on those fundamentals and have kids dribble with their non-dominant hand
Mhm.
and spend a lot of time doing it. So every year, like his whole team would get drafted right away, and he'd end up with like a couple guys that he had the year before, but then the rest of the team would be all new, and yet they would still either win it or take second. So
Right.
it was just that fundamentals that he would have them work on and become proficient at using either hand.
Right.
Funny enough, a bunch of those kids actually went to the state tournament when they got into high school,
Oh, so this is
which
probably because they're ambidextrous. Yeah.
I, I mean, I kind of am like, well, there's a common theme to that. A bunch of those kids played for my dad on
Hmm.
my brother's basketball teams growing up. So um, it was, again, fundamentals worked on at a very young age that
Yeah.
I think had a bigger impact than maybe some realize because that school really wasn't huge on being a sport powerhouse in
Yeah.
really kind of any of those sports except for wrestling. They had a really good wrestling program. So,
Yeah. I feel like it's interesting. I just want to touch on you're talking about fundamentals, and it's so funny how overlooked I think fundamentals can be because it's something that obviously as a coach, right? You coach high level athletes. You're also a physical therapist, coaching people and giving them instruction, and then um, like I feel like it's so common to tell people to work on the fundamentals, but it's also not common to show them, right? Unless you're a high
mhm.
level coach because you understand that that's really where high level athletes spend most of their time is thinking about those things. But it's so easy to overlook it because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, it's obvious. Like you already know how to get into the athletic stance, but
Hmm.
do you know how to get in the athletic stance? Right? And that leads me to I have another question. Um, because you being a father of an 11-year-old, right? Is he's 11 now?
Yep. Just turned
Yeah.
11 in
Just turned
October.
11.
So,
Are you a big, are you having him play basketball and learning how to shoot with both hands the same way you did?
yeah, we're trying to. The schedule gets a little busy, but I
Yeah.
definitely want him coming back to some basketball because last year playing in the summer and through the fall and stuff, I think definitely helped his development. And I mean, the other thing that we're doing is Taekwondo too. So a lot of body awareness
Mhm.
and working, kicking with both sides, punching, blocking, all that. Um, but I think kind of to your point, like you said, fundamentals just get overlooked. And I think it's just because people see them as being easy,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, well, I can do that. But what was instilled on me and what I try to instill on my kids, and you talk to any high level athlete, it's being able to do those fundamentals every time correctly.
Yeah.
They don't know any other way to not do it. But you've watched like Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman or Paul Goldschmidt or Aaron Judge or any of those guys when it comes to baseball or basketball wise, Kobe and Jordan and LeBron, like those guys do the fundamentals right 99.999999999% of the
Right.
time because they don't know any other way to do it. And that's what helps them be so good. But it's boring. It
Yeah.
really is boring to sit
Yeah.
there and do those little things over and over again to that point.
Yeah. And as a parent of an 11-year-old, how do you keep a kid focused on boring things like that?
If you have a really good answer for that, let me know because still working on it. But I think doing it in small spurts helps. Um, just a few minutes in the morning, and Hunter's bouncing the ball off the walls, like doing the drills you showed him how to
Yeah.
do. And it gets frustrating at first, and I don't know, I keep trying to tell him like, hey, make it a game.
Right.
Like how many can you do? And then try to break your record. Um, I don't know, like games now though, I guess they're not really the same as like when I was growing up or when you were growing up, where I mean, Nintendo games, you die over and over again on like Mario or Battletoads or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, and then you got to come back and you just keep
Do it again. Yeah.
do it again. And then, oh, you ran out of lives. And then you had to start like all over again. It's not like now where you like pause and just, or save and you just go back to your last save. It's like,
I haven't even thought about it like that. That's so true that video games really do play a part of that because that changes like now what you base all games to be like, right?
right.
Like when you're a kid and when I'm a kid, a lot of the games that we're playing teach you resilience because you're like, I failed, I died, I got to start all over again until I don't. And
Yeah.
like games, you're right, games nowadays you die and it's like, oh, you just respawn right where you just were.
Yeah.
Try
It's like
again.
you don't have to go back and do the other stuff
Right.
correctly again to get to where you were.
Right. Yeah, so then when you have a kid play a game like to us that was fun, like just how many in a row can I catch off of a wall? They're
Mhm.
like, this is boring. Like
Yeah.
I can't sit here and do that. Right. Yeah, you
But
got to make games challenging and also you have to find a way to make them like extremely. That's also a thing as a coach. I realize the more that I do, it's like I constantly have to one up what I did last time, you know?
mhm,
If you have, I feel like that's true if you have the wrong group of kids. If you have kids that are really focused on the right things, they understand what it is you're trying to do, which is ultimately what my goal is whenever I'm coaching anybody, is how
right.
can I keep leveling them up without them getting bored or like wanting to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
I think just keeping it short for a while and like knowing when to move on is probably like the hardest thing where it's like,
yeah,
all right, let's go till we get it right or something like that. Like I always try to have them end on doing it right. So then that's the last input that they know.
right.
But time permitting, that's not always possible.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but I will say my pick game has gotten a lot better, like doing some of the drills now that
good.
you're having Hunter do. And I'm
It
like, oh
works, man.
shoot,
Those
look at
things work.
that.
Those things really work. I mean, I tell guys all the time the best way to break a habit is to force yourself to do the complete opposite over and over and over again. Like, and I
hmm
always use the word exaggerate, right? You want to exaggerate keeping your eyes down. You want to
Yep.
exaggerate going down and out when you're learning. And like, because then when you exaggerate the movement, it becomes easier to do when you just have to do it.
Yeah. Yep. And I mean, Hunter can definitely get what that is all about because like lifts the eyes off and it's like, oh, missed that one. It's like,
Right.
well, what happened? And he's like, oh, I didn't stay down. It's like, well,
And it's always a
exaggerate
little
that movement.
mistake too, right? It's like always like I just turned my head up a little bit and then you missed
Yep.
it. It's like,
Same thing with hitting.
yeah,
I can tell pretty much within a high 90% whether or not he's going to get a hit or at least put the ball in play based upon how he steps into the box and
Right.
gets everything in there. And then other like everything will look great, and it's like, oh, pulled the head off just at the last second. Wanted to watch that ball fly, and it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, ended up with a miss.
Yeah.
Like, let the ball go. You'll find it. You'll know where it is.
So I'm curious from a dad's perspective, do you talk to Hunter a lot about mindset or an approach or like mentality of a hitter when he's at the plate?
Yeah, this last year has really been big on that. Um, I mean, you know kind of the history from the spring and being in a tough position where um, you know, any mistake and it was like, oh, you're sitting or now you're not getting reps and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And, baseball being a sport of failure, like practice wise, I don't think you can really work that way because you're failing most of the time. And
Mhm.
that's why I always try to tell them like, hey, let's end on a good rep. So that's that last feeling. And just tell them like, hey, game wise, that might not happen. And that's all right. But so much of going into the box, you have to go up there confident that you can take this pitcher. The pitcher's going to give you good pitches. Um, because even like when I was coaching coach pitch, I'll tell you, the kids that I knew weren't as comfortable in the box, I definitely did not pitch as well to because I was all worried about not hitting them,
Right.
which is the complete wrong mindset. You want to have the mindset of, hey, I'm going to just throw this right in the zone. I'm going to put it right there and they're going to hit it, and just keeping that mindset over and over again.
Mhm.
So this last year, we went through a couple different books like Play Big, Bulletproof Hitter, your talks with them occasionally. And, at home, just tell them like, hey, go up there, be ready, whatever kind of happens, happens. Just see the ball, put the barrel to it, and move on from there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of all you can do. Or, Tony Gwynn would be like, I'm going to catch the ball with my barrel
Right.
and, not let it get to the catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
So, um, and I mean, the end of the spring season was a huge turnaround for him. I mean, I think he had like 5 games where he had a triple in
Nice.
consecutive games.
It's
And
fast.
yeah, I mean, it helps to have speed for sure,
Yeah.
but also just being able to hit them hard enough and into those corners and get
Mhm.
around has made a huge difference. And now this year, as he's gotten more at bats, just getting back into the swing of things again. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's another part of it. But he got hit by, what was it? There's one tournament. I think he had 3 or 4 hit by pitches. I don't remember. Like I messaged you about it.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he started to like coming up there like, oh man, I hope he doesn't hit me. And like, sure enough, like what happens? He gets hit by a pitch. And it's like, well, what was your mindset going up there?
Right.
Hopefully I don't get hit by a pitch. I mean, play big is really big on that aspect of putting out those good vibes or that
Yeah.
energy and expecting it back in return. So, it took a week and was like, all right, hey, next tournament, like, where are you going up there? It's like, oh, pitcher's gonna pitch to me. There we go.
Yeah. It is
And just
funny how baseball is like that, where you think something and it happens. I can't
yeah.
tell you how many times for me when I've played where I'll be in center field, there's a runner on second, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, if a fly ball gets hit to my right and this runner on second tries to tag up, I'm going to throw him out. Sure enough, like I have that exact thought. I get a fly ball hit to my right, I get behind it, I look at the runner, I see him tagging up, he leaves, and I just knew I was gonna hose him, and I throw a
Hmm.
perfect one hopper, hose him. And I wasn't even like, yeah, because I was just like, yeah, I already knew I was
I
gonna do
knew.
it. I just had a feeling, and it was the coolest moment where I'm like, I knew it. I
Yep.
already predicted it, and I saw it, and I just did it.
Yep. Yeah, I like that's been pretty wild when you come to baseball and like you said, it's just you can kind of like will things into
You
existence
have
and
to, it's hard because what happens, what I've realized is you want to control it so badly, right? You're like, okay, I have to do well. or like a situation comes up and then your mindset will like play a game on you. You're like, oh, well now there's runner in second and third. So if I just hit a fly ball, like I'm good. I don't if I it's when you change it instead of just being open-minded, right? Like
Hmm.
even as a pitcher, as soon as you go, oh, I just got the first two batters out in 6 pitches. Oh, I'm pretty, all of a sudden you walk a batter, you give a double, or
Yep.
that's when you give a bomb or something. You like just you start to like clock what's happening instead of just playing the game.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's easy to you get because it's a thinking man's game. It's easy to think so much about it that then when you're overthinking it, you're now no longer just playing.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what makes baseball the hardest sport
yeah,
is you have so much time to think about all these different things, and it's trying to stay in that moment, like you said, of just
totally.
being in the now from the middle of the now,
Right.
as Ben Crane said in one of his golf spoof
Yeah,
videos.
no, that's true. Dude, that one swing that you're taking right now is the only thing that matters.
Yeah. But
This leads me to another question I wanted to ask you. Because I've been wanting to ask this to a couple of other parents. But you have such a good perspective just because Hunter started playing travel ball at 10. But what I'm curious
nine
about,
actually.
9.
Or
Okay, so even 8?
eight, eight, eight.
Okay.
So
So did Hunter ever play Little League?
so we did like kind of a little league out here that was coach pitch and
Right.
stuff like that. It was a bit more competitive, so we've had like a lot of teams start in that from T-ball, and then when they got to coach pitch, it formed club teams or entire clubs even out of it. So it wasn't Little League specifically, um, but kind of like that similar build-up where coaches were pitching up until what was it 8? Then 8 was like a combination. That was like a weird kind of age level there. But no, Little League, he just played last year, where he played like true Little League, and
Mhm.
they have districts and state and stuff like
So
that.
he did that
So
only for one season?
yeah,
And
so
he did he do Little League after he played travel ball?
mhm,
Okay. So you started him from coach pitch directly into travel ball roles.
mhm,
And so that, just so you know, that is extremely, not extremely, but I would say that's more unique than the average baseball player. At least with the kids that I coach in the area that I'm in California,
mhm,
primarily every kid that I've ever worked with does little league from like 7 or 8 years old up until they're 12 or 13 if they're in that cusp. And
right.
then they're trying to fill in travel ball on top of little league. So they're playing both little league, practicing with their teams, doing tournaments on the weekends. I mean, games on the weekends, and then squeezing in travel ball practice twice a week, and then making it to as many tournaments as they can go to.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of similar. Like I said, the coach pitch was, I don't know, I think kind of similar with some of the Little League rules and stuff. Um, Although you could use USSSA bats in it. They had like, couldn't lead off or steal or something like that until I'm trying to remember when exactly,
So
but
they had like
it was like a
right,
hybrid kind of a
I see.
league, so it was a
But it
little
was
bit more
like they
competitive.
were introducing it to help the kids like learn as they got older,
Yeah, and
right?
so now, um, with his age, there's quite a few kids that'll do little league and club,
Yeah.
but most of them have been doing club and, well, I guess I don't know that for sure, but there's a number of club kids that'll do little league, and at least where we are, the club players know the game way better
That's
and
what I wanted
are a
to
lot
ask.
more
I wanted to see
refined.
if you noticed a significant difference between the kids that played club ball versus just little league.
Yeah, I mean, even with some of the different practices and stuff that we've gone to, like it's almost hard for Hunter because he knows the game so much more and the fundamentals of stuff that he has to remember like his teammates don't necessarily know the fundamentals of like the footwork at
Mhm.
receiving a ball from at second, like if the shortstop's coming over to receive the ball and make a double play, or like throwing a ball to glove side on a relay, or where cutoffs all need to go. So that was a bit of a challenge for him with Little League last year. I don't think he really had an issue of getting confused on some of the rule differences.
Yeah,
Um, I think probably there might have been like one game or something like that where he left early or something like that to steal or something. But
right.
um, other than that, I can't really think of really any issues that he had with the rule differences. So,
So what do you think the biggest, and this might be a pretty obvious answer, but I'm curious. What do you think the biggest reason is that you think that travel ball slash club ball players are developing faster and at a higher level than kids that are just playing Little League?
I mean, I think it's the amount of time. The clubs are going, a good portion of the year, where the Little League players oftentimes are just playing in the spring. Some might do fall ball, and fall ball is a little bit more relaxed, even where um, kids are guaranteed like more playing time and stuff like that. And um, it's just testing things out, which
Yeah.
I wish club ball would do more so in the fall of like, moving guys around. And if you're with a good club like we are, they'll do that. But I know there's a lot of clubs that don't. And that's probably the big thing is
In terms of
just
just like
the
playing
amount of
different
time.
positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so um yeah, I think it really comes down to the amount of time. The kids that play club are really in for baseball. They love playing it. They
Mhm.
want to be competitive. Where um, I think from the little league background, you don't have that. It's a lower cost to get into, so it's just like, oh, you want to play baseball? Okay, great.
Right.
Here's what I think. What is it, like $160 or something like that for the season
Right.
where we are? Whereas like club is like, well, do you really want to do it? Well, if you really want to do it, like
Yeah.
you gotta show up to practices, and you gotta be working on stuff outside of practice on your own.
Yeah.
Especially at this age. If you're a really good athlete, you can kind of get away with just showing up to practice and
Yeah.
stuff like that and doing okay.
Right.
But when you start getting to that 10, 11 age to be competitive, it's starting to make a gap there of, oh,
Yeah.
you haven't been doing batting practice
You can
or done
tell.
any
Yeah.
batting all week. So,
So if you had to give advice to another parent that has a young athlete who's like, let's say between 9 and 11 years old, and their kid is considering travel ball, but the parents have no like understanding of what it is, right? And in their eyes, because this is a very common question I get is A, why does it cost so much? Right? Why is it so expensive? B, how come I don't just go to a program where it's significantly cheaper, right? Like if
mhm.
it's about the money. Um, and then the last part of the question is, how do you justify spending multiple thousands of dollars on a kid that is not even developed yet?
Yeah, I mean,
I
biggest
guess the way I
thing.
can rephrase the last part of it though is why is it worth it to you as a parent to spend the money on it?
So, first thing is I'd say do your research on your clubs. Um, look into the coaches. Granted, that said, they may not have a baseball background, like they might not have played collegiately or something like that. Um, but they have studied the game, they've learned it well enough to work on those fundamentals, and they have a really good attitude. I mean, there's some guys that played pro ball or played collegiately that, yeah, they know the game and they can teach it really well, but their attitudes aren't great. And for young kids, especially at like 8, 9, if you have kind of a softer hearted kid, um, that environment probably is not going to work well for them unless you can be really supportive. And even if you are really supportive outside of that,
Hmm.
They still have to have some level of confidence in what you're telling them more so than what these coaches are telling them in
Right.
some respects. So do your research on your clubs. Some clubs are really expensive and their coaches are really good. They're really positive and they have a lot of practices a week. I mean, field times are not cheap. Facilities aren't cheap. So, I mean, that's a lot of cost with it.
Hmm.
The club we're in is pretty inexpensive comparatively. Even like I broke it down to like per unit of time. So like per minute, it's actually less expensive than us doing Taekwondo.
Mm.
So, and we're doing to Taekwondo like twice a week for about 50-minute classes or so. So, gymnastics, which my daughter's doing, is more expensive per minute. It not by much, but a little bit. So, I mean, like I said, you definitely need to look around with the
Yeah.
different clubs and, get a feel for how the coaches are. The other thing that you really want to pay attention to is how are the parents? Do the parents get along? Are they supportive? Are they positive? Or, are they giving umpires grief at games
Right.
for missed calls and stuff like that, or being negative on the players and stuff? Because that will have a big impact as well. The coaches have to deal with it, the
Hmm.
players hear it, um, you know, and then from there, like I said, it cost wise, you kind of have to see what you one can afford and are comfortable with. But for us, it's wanting to give our kids a good experience at learning how to work hard and challenge themselves
Hmm.
in something that they enjoy doing. So not only enjoy it, but want to try to be a master at it.
So you value the challenge almost more than like it just being a fun thing, right? You want it to be a challenge for him.
Yeah, I mean, I it would kind of suck if,
It wasn't fun at
tomorrow
all.
Hunter's like, I'm done with baseball,
Right.
but there's so much value in life lessons that he's learned now because of it. And like when I played, I mean, what he knows now, like I didn't know till like a few years ago, and his baseball knowledge is now as good as mine almost. I still have a little bit of an edge on him because I know how the body works and moves better, but when it comes to baseball knowledge and rules and stuff like that, he knows it just as well as I do.
Yeah.
But I like I recognize helping him through learning from the situations he's been in the last few years
Hmm.
and helping guide him through that whatever he ends up deciding to do, he'll have those life lessons. And
Yeah.
that's really what sports is more about.
Yeah.
Hey, great if your kid makes it pro and takes it really far, but more so are they learning the life lessons out of it
Right.
that are going to help them in other areas. So
Totally. I love that. That's a great point. Because that kind of leads me to the last part that I wanted to kind of touch on because well, I'm pulling from, by the way, some of these questions I'm pulling from real parents that have approached me, about certain things because where I live here in Marin County, I've it's a unique uh, pot of kids because it's very wealthy. This area, this county is like the third wealthiest county, I think, in the US. Like it's a lot of people come out here that are like tech people that are started businesses that are old and retired, all
yeah,
different aspects of life.
yep,
And what I've learned is the kids here, because when you have much more wealthier parents, your exposure to things is huge. So
oh yeah,
I come across kids that they do swimming, they do tennis, they do skiing, they do baseball, they do basketball, they do flag football, they do bowling, they do cooking, and they're not even 12 yet. And so
yeah,
what
yep,
I've learned is so many parents are like asking their kids, "What do you want to do?" Right? When you're 11, you want to do everything, or
right.
you no idea what you want to do. So I think it's funny that parents are having their kids decide. But the question that I'm getting at is in a world that's like that, right? Because you live in an area where it's definitely not the same like that. Um, but my
I mean, we
question,
definitely have plenty of money and
yeah,
stuff in and around Phoenix,
okay, so
and
this is a perfect
so,
question then. So
but
my
there's probably a little bit more vary.
yeah, so if you're a parent that
So,
has the money, right, to spend, and you have the time to do it, yeah, you can commit to it, but the only thing holding you back is it worth the money on a 10-year-old kid when they're not even developing yet, right? Why is it worth the money?
mhm. Well, I mean, like I said, the life lessons are going to be huge. Having them in a good environment and learning how to push themselves and try to achieve something difficult is super important.
Yeah,
I think that's why a lot of athletes grow up to be very successful people. That said, um, just because it's a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean it's great, and
right,
doesn't necessarily mean it's worth it. Um, because there also has to have like that certain amount of individual drive and push to want to go and work on things.
yeah,
I mean, I've seen or I see both sides of that. Kids that go to lessons all the time. They have what, two or three other lessons, like individual, outside of their team practices. And then, you have other kids who just show up to practices and then they go work on things at home by themselves or with their parents. And I think doing that is super valuable
yeah,
because if the kid doesn't have the drive to do it on their own, like, what really is left at that? Like,
right,
how
right,
important is it to them?
right,
So I, it really kind of depends on what you feel comfortable with or what you want your kid to get out of it.
right,
I mean, there's definitely something to be said about keeping them busy and active and learning from different people. I mean,
yeah,
I just went to an event this last weekend with a bunch of other entrepreneurs, high level guys. Met the Blue Power Ranger, Mike Chat. What's up?
nice,
Um, you know, guys that have very driven, dedicated lives, and how they talk, how they interact
yeah,
is different.
right,
And exposing your kids to that kind of environment as much as you can is super valuable too. So,
right. You mean you are who
um,
you surround yourself with, you know?
yeah, there's a saying that goes, "You are the average of the five people you surround yourself with most."
Right,
So, and that's something I talk to my kids about too. Of like, be careful who you're around the most. And not to say like you can't be around other kids and stuff like that. Like, be a good influence on those other people, but the people that you are closest with, make sure they're pushing you and have your back and have your support too.
totally. And long story short, basically what you're saying is the coach that you select to have be your son's coach should be somebody that you want him to emulate. It should be
Yeah,
somebody that pushes him and should be someone that you know is constantly filling his cup up instead of trying to empty it out.
yeah, yeah, and that's why the other parents are going to be important with that as well,
Yeah.
because they're going to have the impact on their teammates that your kid's going to be around. So I guess I would look at it as picking a coach based upon, do they have their heart in the right place? And are they teaching them fairly good stuff versus, hey, they're teaching them exactly what they need to do or know to be a really good baseball player, but they have a garbage attitude.
Mhm.
I'm going to take that coach that has his heart in the right place and is trying to teach them really good things versus teaching them really good things, but not being a great person to be around.
Yeah.
So now I will say something to be said about kids learning how to deal with different people and, people who have difficult or challenging attitudes because that's just the nature of life. But, um, knowing when and how to coach them through that and when enough is enough is key. And, there's no perfect answer to that. Every kid's going to be a little bit different, but, um, you know, they do need to be able to learn how to work with coaches that are quote unquote tough,
Yeah. Yeah.
too. So,
That's true. And ultimately you're not going to know that until you have the coach, right?
yeah.
Like you can make your own assumption, you can think all you want. You go, "Okay, this is the guy." And then all of a sudden you see him operate after 2 weeks and you go, "Oh, shoot, this is the coach that's going to be the tough one." And then that's
Mhm.
where you go, "All right, Buckaroo, time to learn a lesson right now. Like we committed to this. It's
Yep.
not going to be forever, but at least for the next 4 months or whatever it is."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think kind of coming back to your point before too about, letting kids decide like what they do and don't want to do. I mean, we've definitely seen that too as, yeah, like I understand you want to do this, but like here, like this is something that you need to kind of work through,
Right.
learn how to deal with it, and that kind of thing. Um, but again, there's also points where it's like, hey, you're doing everything you can, and um, you're showing up, you're keeping a good attitude and everything, and it's just reached a point where, hey, we need to break ties
Yeah.
because it's really negatively impacting, who you are, how you're performing, and like it's not getting better. Their heart's not in the right place, and that kind of thing too. But
Yeah.
I don't think you just pull a kid out of a situation because it gets hard either,
Yeah.
Um, and I've actually been on both sides of that. There's a kid that was playing with us when Hunter was younger that was just a challenge to work with sometimes. And some stuff happened before one of our games, and I told him like, "Hey, well, you are now sitting this game. Like, you are not playing."
Right.
And the parent ended up pulling them mid-game, and I told the parent, I said, "Hey, you can do what you want, but to me, I think leaving now is not the right thing to do."
Right. But what is
Like
that teaching the kid?
yeah, they're not learning a lesson here. So,
Yeah. And
um,
ultimately baseball is all about learning lessons, man.
oh, lots
That's
of
what we're
them.
teaching them.
Like, there's so much deeper appreciation for the game now. Like, I'm telling you, my dad pleaded with me to play baseball and stick with it. He's like, the high school coach already told me you have a spot on the team. Like, you're left-handed, and
Right.
just everything. But I didn't appreciate like the depth. And I don't know. I don't know if a lot of us really understood the depth at,
Right.
you know, back then and to that level. But now I'm really glad that Hunter's decided to stick with it and, really loves it because it's a hard sport and
Yeah.
he's learned a lot of lessons that I didn't learn till later. I mean, some of them I just kind of learned in the last few years as
Yeah.
we've been involved with baseball.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, it's just so crazy because I remember when he told me it's like, "Oh, I'm a baseball guy now." I'm like, "Oh, what? Come on. Like I'm a track guy. Like that's those sports don't mesh. They're at
Right.
the same time."
Right. The same
So,
seasons. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, dude. Well, hey, that's all the time I have for today for
yeah,
our first ever
same.
podcast or school baseball cast. But I appreciate you taking the time today to talk travel ball, to talk about being a high level athlete, and also really appreciate your perspective as a dad, with a young athlete who's going through all the things that I'm going through, as a coach's perspective. So having
Mhm.
your perspective on all of this really helps me and helps anybody that watches this that I'm sure is also a parent that's thinking about this stuff. Because this is all useful information that I know my parents didn't have when I was a kid that they had no access to. And Like I had no idea what the travel world was like. Also because when I was younger, it didn't exist until I was 13.
Yeah,
And it's a completely different beast now than what it was 15, 20 years ago, or not even
for
that long
sure.
ago. It hasn't even been around for 20 years, I don't think. Barely
Right.
20 years.
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty crazy, but no, I hopefully this is helpful for a lot of people out there and glad to share what I do know or even maybe admit I don't know and
Yeah,
still trying to figure out because I
yeah,
don't know that anybody has a real solid answer when it comes to everything, but
right.
having that perspective is huge.
Yeah.
So
And the next time we talk to you, I want to dive more into about all the positions that lefties aren't supposed to play, but still want to play. That's a
hey,
different
let's go.
conversation. Real quick,
Ooh.
I want because I've realized we didn't do any introduction at all about
Oh.
like who we are. So there's people. Why am I listening to these guys? So just really quick, I'm gonna give my introduction real fast, and then you can
Yeah.
just speak about your introduction. So I'm gonna give my introduction real fast, and then you can
Yeah.
just speak about your introduction. So I'm Coach Nick. I've been coaching baseball for 4 years full time. I've been playing baseball since I was five. I'm 29. I turned 30 in a month. So I've been basically baseball has been my entire life for 25 plus years. I've learned a lot about using my passion to make it to the next level. I was never I was never the best player on my baseball team growing up and every team that I was on, but I was always on teams that knew how to win, which ultimately led me to play in college because I learned the competitive edge that was needed to keep going, to keep playing. And going through the junior college route is where it opened up my mind to the mental side of the game. And that's where my entire perspective of baseball completely shifted from this really fun game to this mental battle that's constantly happening every pitch. And that's led me to being a coach that's now I consider myself to be a high level coach because we talk about this in our podcast, but about focusing on the fundamentals and about seeing these things. So um, I've been able to use all the knowledge that I've gained over the last, you know, 10, 12 years of playing and coaching. So I feel like coaching young kids that are 10 to 12, I have a very unique perspective on how I can fit in their shoes and I can really see from their perspective on all these things. And it's led me into what I'm doing now. So that's why I started this podcast and we're talking about the school baseball because I want to teach as many young kids as I can to learn how to fall in love with the game first. Once you fall in love with the game, then you learn as much about the game as you can, and then you rep it out as much as you can, and then you turn it into a high level thing, right? And then it's a
Mhm.
game that's so much fun to work hard that it's just this never ending that you just are constantly learning from. So anyways, that's just kind of who I am. Kind of who I am as a coach is as a fundamental, passionate youth baseball coach. So, anyways, yeah,
No, I mean, I think something to point out is like every kid's path is going to be different. I mean, we see guys, you know, go through like JUCO to college and into the pros and stuff like that. So, um, something to keep in mind is like not every kid's path is going to look the same, and kind of being aware of that. Like, yeah, you kind of want to be aware of like where other kids are and stuff like that, but you also don't want to be caught up of like, oh, well, this kid's doing that and this kid's doing this and this. You see it all the time
right,
in like really anything involved with youth, whether it's sports or school and stuff like that. The biggest thing to focus on is like, hey, are you progressing and are you learning? And you know, I was a multi-sport athlete. I played a bunch of different sports growing up, and similarly, like I wasn't necessarily the best one on the team. There's times when I was, but plenty of times when I wasn't. And because of that, it taught me how to work hard and work on like the fundamentals and getting those down. And I had my parents that really instilled getting fundamentals down and working on them. So that's a little bit of my background. I'm Dr. Kevin Haglund, physical therapist and sports orthopedic, and um, I've worked with professional athletes, to, some that have played in the majors, NFL, NHL, European soccer leagues, to, down to the T-ball level, coaching with my kids and their teams and stuff like that. So, um, I've seen kind of that whole progression from early childhood to elite levels. And, as I said, I was a multi-sport athlete and eventually went to college as a sprinter and triple jumper and had some records set there. Um, and I coached a number of track athletes that have gone to college and also set collegiate records for their schools and things of that nature. But um, being a speed and power guy, like I know the specificity and the attention to detail that players need, especially when it comes to baseball. I mean, there's so many technical aspects to it that triple jump really prepared me to have an eye for and pick up on.
Mm,
So, as I've learned baseball with my son now growing up, um, I've gotten a much deeper appreciation to the game and wanting to instill that with others. And, as you said, have them love the game for playing it, but also the value and life lessons that it brings along with them. So,
yeah.
um, along with that, from my background as a physical therapist, wanting to protect arms that, kids can continue to play long into, whether it be a high school or a college or beyond. And after that, still being able to be very active and enjoying life, when that time comes to hang up the cleats. So
Mm, totally. Love it, dude. Love it. All right, man. Well, let's freaking go. That's awesome. That's a great start right there.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love
Like
it.
I said, no pressure to make this perfect, but just to start the conversation, because that's the first step is to just do action. Sweet, man. Well,
But
thanks for the time today, dude.
you as
I'm,
well.
I'm glad we are
Appreciate
able to
it.
finally get
Looking
this
forward
done,
to
and
it.
it's gonna